All right. Let's talk about responsibility in your love life. Most people are not responsible. Most people don't know how to be responsible. They have not been taught how to be responsible by their parents. They weren't taught because their parents are not responsible, and their teachers are not responsible, and their role models are not responsible. We live in a world of irresponsible people who are not getting what they want out of their life because they don't know how to be responsible. Okay. This is such a problem in the world. With both men and women, both men and women. It's not a woman problem. It's not a man problem. It is a person problem. Okay. An irresponsible person pandemic that we're dealing with. Almost everybody's irresponsible. They're irresponsible when dating. They're irresponsible in relationships. They are not able to take responsibility for themselves and exactly what they are getting, exactly what they're co-creating with a partner, with a date. Okay. Why is that? It's because it's uncomfortable. Well, when you're an irresponsible person, it's an uncomfortable thing to take full responsibility, right? You got to really put your ego in check, put your ego aside, and really see and admit to yourself all of your flaws, right? Instead of blaming somebody else or the opposite gender for all your problems, right? So I had a brief discussion online this morning when I couldn't sleep, unfortunately, at 3 o'clock in the morning, about, call it crazy women. Okay. I don't really think women are crazy. Like there's legitimately crazy women, sure. Like I've seen women that are actually, there's something wrong going on with them and they're like pissing in the middle of the street and obviously they're things aren't functioning properly, right? And there's men like that as well. Then there is the large percentage of women that many men have called crazy before, right? Why? Because they exhibit, we'll call it like crazy behaviors in a relationship because they're not emotionally regulated and because they were never taught how to communicate and deal with their neediness and anxiety and stuff in a mature way. They weren't taught how to get their needs met in a mature way. And so when a man, especially an emasculated man, right, who is not able to create a really solid, loving, safe, secure container for a woman, gets into a relationship with that woman, he's going to bring out all of the crazy in her. Okay. All of the crazy in her is going to come out. She's not actually crazy. It's just she doesn't have emotional regulation and better communication and behavior tools to get her needs met. That's all that is. And so men who blame women, it's like, oh my God, she's just crazy. They're not responsible. I've done that as well. All right. So one of my serious relationships that I had years ago, I actually used the words like she was crazy. And I used those words to describe her because I didn't understand at the time how I was co creating all of her crazy behavior. Okay. All of her neediness, all of her insecurity, all of her just all of her craziness. All right. Looking back now, understanding polarity, having made all of the shifts that I have made in my marriage, so I was bringing out some of the crazy in my wife as well, right? Because that was me. That was my own emasculation that was doing that. And of course, interacting with hundreds of clients, especially my women clients, it's very obvious looking back at that relationship. I could have fixed everything if I knew what I was doing. Not that I want to. I'm glad it worked out and that I met my wife instead, but I could have. I just didn't know. She wasn't crazy at all. She just had emotional regulation problems and she had um not the best communication tools to deal with their needs, to deal with the fact that I sucked at leading her. I sucked at creating an amazing rock solid container for her to feel safe so that her abandonment issues aren't going to be activated all the time, and the emotional centeredness and boundaries to not deal with her unhealthy behavior, and the ability to lead her into healthier behaviors, right? So that it doesn't keep repeating the cycle. Because a man, even if he has a rock solid container, a woman who has a lot of issues, that stuff's going to come up and he needs to know how to deal with it, right? So once I started looking at myself, everything changed, right? That's how my marriage completely changed 100%. So, and what's interesting is before I got married, before I got married, I did have a ton of emotional responsibility in that way, but not so much in relationships, right? Because I was trained myself as a pickup artist. Okay, call it ethical pickup artist, sort of. Uh, but one of the great things about doing that whole pickup thing and learning how to meet women, date women, by being genuine and honest, the great thing about that is that uh, friggin' Facebook notifications. The great thing about that is there were so many times that it didn't work out well, right? I've been rejected thousands and thousands of times, literally thousands and thousands of times. And for me to improve as a man, for me to go from a person who, like a man who literally had zero success with women, who was literally like probably in the the bottom 1% of unsuccessful men on the planet with women, to getting into, I don't know, the top 1%, let's say, depending, obviously it depends how you measure it, but to become really successful with women, what did I have to do? I had to look at all of my mistakes, or sorry, I had to look at all of my failures. The fact that a woman flaked on me, or she didn't like me, or she ignored me when I went up to her in a club or a bar on the sidewalk or wherever, or she didn't do a second date, or whatever it is, didn't work out. I had to look at that and make a choice. I could either look at her and be like, well, she was just a bitch. She just didn't understand how amazing I was. She just didn't see how awesome I was. She just missed her opportunity. She sucked anyway. She probably hates men. She was probably a feminist. All that garbage, right? All that garbage stories that men will tell themselves. I could have done that. And then, of course, I wouldn't have grown at all, because you don't grow when you're being irresponsible. When you're, and so taking responsibility, like in this case, taking responsibility is looking at situations, okay, it didn't work out, and then objectively figuring out why it didn't work out. What could I have done better? That's one of the most important questions that a man or a woman can ask themselves. What could I have done better in that situation for it to work out? And there is, like, I'm not saying, hey, it's all because of me, but I'm the only person that I can control in that equation. I cannot control the other woman. I cannot, you know, force her or blame her to like me. So what could I have done? What could I have done? Right? And there is always things that I could have done. I could have been more confident. I could have just led the conversation better. I could have, been more assertive, more directive, had better boundaries, not been got a little bit emotionally off center, whatever it is. Okay, I could have done a better job. So I take in that information. I'm like, okay, I'm going to work on doing better next time. Okay, it's not about blaming myself, beating myself up. Oh, I'm such a fucking piece of shit. Should have not done that. No, I don't do that. I haven't done that in at least 15 years. I don't even know what it's like to beat myself up in any way. Just, oh, okay, this is what I could have done better. I'm going to do that. So I had that level of responsibility, and I call that radical responsibility, right? You're radically responsible, looking at every single situation and asking yourself that question: what could I have done better? Okay. And then I got into a relationship. Well, multiple relationships, but let's talk about the relationship with my wife. And I went from having that radical responsibility to not being fully responsible. My wife did a whole bunch of things that I didn't like, that really pissed me off. That was really irritating to me. I wasn't getting everything that I wanted in my relationship. I wasn't getting everything that I wanted, all my needs met in the way that I wanted them. Okay. And then I started to create stories. And what are those stories? Well, the stories are, it's your fault. It's your fault. Talking to my wife, right? It's your fault. wouldn't say it like that, but that's what the story that would be going on in my head. It's somehow her fault, whatever that is, right? She's just too resistant. She's not submissive. She's too judgmental. She's too emotional. She's crazy, whatever, right? All of that stuff that men will often say. And this isn't just about men, right? This is 100% equally about women too, and their stories about their man or about men in general, right? Because they're not taking responsibility. And it wasn't until I learned about polarity that shifted, right? Because that was the missing puzzle piece for me. I learned so much for over a decade about human behavior, about men, about women interacting, dating, relationships to a reasonable degree, pickup stuff, attraction, all of that. I learned like literally thousands of hours I had studied and thousand more hours I had applied. Like I thought I knew everything. And then suddenly polarity, the missing puzzle piece. And instantly, once I got that, once I understood, okay, this is why my wife is responding in this way that I don't like. It's because I am exhibiting emasculated behaviors. I am not creating the safest container for her possible. I am not being fully emotionally centered when I lead her. I'm not leading her with love all of the time. Sometimes I'm coming with a subjugating energy, sometimes with a just critical energy, sometimes a too soft of an energy. Sometimes I'm staying, actually, a lot of the time, I'm staying quiet and just dealing with it all by myself and just hoping that the problem goes away. All of these things that I was doing wrong. So once I had the new framework, the new blessing from God, understanding polarity after all this time, suddenly I went right back into radical responsibility. Okay, all of these problems in this relationship are because of me, right? Now, obviously, like, I want to be clear, that doesn't mean that my wife can't and shouldn't be changing a bunch of things about herself. Absolutely, right? It's not about it all just being me, but it's all about me because only me can. Sorry, I am the only person that I can control. Okay, so it is all about me. It's like, and if I just shift all of these things in myself, guess what's going to happen in the relationship? Everything is going to change, and everything did change. Now, got to be a little careful there because there, you can make all of these shifts, and some people will not change. That does happen. Okay, that does happen because they're not ready to change. An abusive person, you make all these shifts, and they're still abusive. Now, and I would say, like, to be fair, that is more for women. Like, I really believe that if a man is dominant enough, then as long as a woman doesn't have like a very, very serious mental disorder, like she is a legitimate narcissist or psychopath or something like that, I believe that every man can lead a woman into a radiance, into her femininity, into responsibility with 100% certainty. If a man chooses to learn these tools, learn how to become dominant, learn how to be competent enough, confident enough, solid enough in his boundaries. I just can't see any way how a man couldn't, right? Because he's the one that has the control. And women are wired to submit and let go. And we've seen that. Like, working with students, we've seen some incredibly difficult cases that like nobody else could have solved. No therapist, no psychologist, no other coach that I could possibly imagine. No one other than coaches doing this polarity work. And then for women, I'd say it's probably like 95% of the time. If a woman really does this work, her man's going to shift. If she truly, truly, truly does all of this work, her man is going to shift. Maybe it's higher, maybe it's lower, but like, I mean, and again, you're not going to change a psychopath. You're not going to change a legitimate narcissist. You're not going to change a legitimate abuser who's just there to abuse. But for the most part, you're going to make these shifts. It's called radical responsibility. Okay, you just need to know what to actually shift. Once you know that you like, this is about empowerment. Okay, let's get this straight. This is about empowering yourself. This is real empowerment. It's about When you take 100% responsibility for your life, and it's not just your love life, it's everything. It's your business, your job, your children, whatever. When you take 100% responsibility, now you're focused on the one thing that you can change, which is yourself, your own behavior, your mindset, your reactions, your reactivity, all of that stuff. You can change that. Your communication style, right? Men mastering masculine communication, women mastering feminine communication, men mastering their competency of leading, women mastering their competency. Well, I don't like using the word competency, but their openness and receptivity and submission. Okay. You can do that now, right? Like if you are listening to this video and you're like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. Radical responsibility. Awesome. Okay, that's great. So you're receptive to it. The next step is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to invest in yourself and actually learn about polarity? Actually get real coaching on it, get real support, get real practice, get real refinement? Because that's what we help you do, right? That's what me and my team will help you do. Learning all of these shifts, applying all of these shifts, making sure that you're not making the big mistakes and turning you around, getting you in the right direction so that you actually can make these shifts in a relatively quick period of time. So you're not wasting decades of your life trying to figure it out, getting back into blame because you try figuring it out and it's not working very well. And then you start to think, oh, it must be my partner, or it must be men, or it must be women. No, it's still you. You're just not applying polarity right. You're just not applying masculine or feminine communication right. It's still you. It's still you who chose not to invest in yourself. It's still you who chose not to get expert support to transform your love life. That's part of radical responsibility, right? Is making the choice. This is important enough to me to do whatever it takes to allocate my money or save up my money or whatever and get this expert support. Okay, that's a choice. That's a choice. If it was me, I'm being dead serious, because and sure, I am an extremist, 100% an extremist. But if it was me and I was in a position where my love life kind of sucks, I'm not getting what I want out of it, and I had X amount of money, but it wasn't enough to do whatever support I wanted to do, well, I guess I'm eating rice and beans for a year. I guess I'm living in my car and getting rid of my apartment. I guess I'm doing whatever the hell I have to do so that I can make these changes, right? Because I'm that serious about it. Because I don't want to stay stuck complaining and blaming and not having what I want in my life. But of course, it's about priorities too. You know, having a healthy love life, like the two things that matter to me more than anything: my purpose and my like love life slash family. Okay. Everything else is shit. Like I could live in a car, I could live in a ditch, I could eat rice and beans if I had to. Of course, I like comfort, I love all of that stuff, but it's that high of a priority for me that I'll do whatever I have to if I had to, if I was in that financial situation. I'm not, but if I was, that's what I would do, because that's about, radical responsibility. Complainers will be like, oh, I don't have enough money. Guess what you're doing when you do that? Once again, you're not taking responsibility. Once again, you are blaming your situation, a situation. This time, you're just not blaming a man. You're blaming your job. You're blaming your bank account. You're blaming whatever. Meanwhile, there's things that you could actually practically do to save, to earn more money, to save, make more money, invest, whatever, sell something to make this happen for yourself, right? I hate complainers, and I hate complaining myself, right? Because when you are complaining, when you make excuses, you are back in that victim mindset. My bank account did this to me. My man did this to me. Women did this to me. That's not responsibility, right? If you want something, if you want to fix something in your life, you want to fix your love life, you want to fix your relationship, you want to fix your dating life, then do it. Stop making excuses and start seeing whatever obstacles are in the way of that, and figure out a solution to overcome that obstacle. If it's money, figure out a way to save and make more money. If it is time, figure out a way to make more time and to stop doing things that aren't necessary. If it's a lack of information, then figure out a way to get that information. If it's a lack of support, figure out a way to get that support, right? There are solutions in this world, and yes, some people have it harder than others. I get that. Like I've had less problems than some people for sure, but there's always a solution if you want it bad enough. Like that's what this really comes down to. You want to have a dream relationship, then figure out a solution to make sure it happens. Get the money, get the time, and then get the support, figure out the right support. I'm a little biased, but I think that we're the best support by far when it comes to learning masculine and feminine communication and polarizing yourself and healing whatever trauma is in the way of that, and actually shifting your communication, shifting your behavior patterns to fully polarize yourself, polarize yourself on dates, fully polarize yourself in relationships. That's what we help you do. That's what we want to help you do. If you want that as well, then join Polarity Club and work with us. Right now, we've switched things. So for people that are not aware, we have a 3-month Polarity Club offer. It's discounted 25% until the end of February. Go to relationshipyourdreams.com or polarityclub.com and learn about it and sign up and change your life. Become radically responsible. It's ultimately up to you. You have that choice. You have that ability. You have the means to find a way if you care about it enough. If you make that your priority, you can have the relationship of your dreams. It's all on you. Relationshipyourdreams.com, polarityclub.com. Join us and I'll see you there. Get that discount. Because if not now, when? If you're not going to do it when it's 25% off, when are you ever going to do it? When are you ever going to fix your love life? Let's make it happen. That's it for this one.